Hello, everybody. Today, we are going to talk about maximizing the value of your practice and achieving well-being in retirement. Please note, this is not personal financial advice. This is only information. Please contact us for a complimentary discussion to share specific circumstances and getting individual advice. So let's start with getting to know the two of us that are going to present today. My name is Rohit. I am a chartered financial planner. I've been doing this for the last 15 years or so. 2009 to 17, I was working with leading banks as a financial planner. And for the last 7 years, I've had my own practice delivering independent financial advice to private clients, specializing in dentists, of course.
Hello, everyone. Max here. Born in Italy a few years ago. Born in a lovely city called Perugia. I got involved at age 19 in my first business. Essentially, I purchased, developed, and grew and sold the business after 3 years. I bought it at 19, sold at 22, and that is what I realized that was my passion was. That's what I wanted to do. And then at that point, I started doing multiple courses on valuation and business studies. And it's something that I continue doing today, really, because it's such a fluid market, right, where you have to be on top of the game. So I continue doing ACCA courses, valuation, negotiation, yearly. In 2008, I got involved in M&A dentistry, merger and acquisition. It's my first taste of dentistry. We grew a group to almost 140 practices. Then we sold. So that was my first experience on an exit, a large scale. And then for the following 10 years, I got involved in multiple deals and still in dentistry, got involved in excess of 500 deals in dentistry and some consolidations of GP surgeries and vet practices, but predominantly we do dental practices. 95% of our time is dental practices. In 2018, we set up with 3 other partners, very experienced in the sectors, Pluto Partners. So we are essentially a bespoke dental sales agency, and we deal with single practices, exit, to a group of 10, 15, 20 practices looking to exit.
Thank you, Max. Lots of experience there. So let's jump straight onto it. Today, we are going to talk about the master plan of your financial future. This is about your goals, your vision of happiness, and where you're heading. So when you run a dental practice, that is basically your plan to financial freedom. And what that needs you to do is have a very clear vision. Where are you headed in terms of selling the practice, provisioning for all the known unknowns of life, whether it is chasing your passions, engaging in your hobbies, or preparing for that around the world trip. What you need to do is understand that what are you going to do between now and when you sell the practice. And then beyond that, what does life look like in active retirement when you're still fit and healthy to live the life that you want to live? And then when age catches up, you prepare for later life where you slow down. And then towards the end of life, there are things like passing on your wealth to the next generation. And that's what we call building a master plan or a blueprint of your financial future. Okay. So we always plan to age 100 purely because almost everybody retiring today can expect to live to 100. So what is the key question that you should be asking when you're looking to attain financial freedom? What does your ideal life look like? What is your definition of joy? So my definition of joy could be retiring in a village in Nepal where I need £100 a month, or it could be living in Monaco or the south of France where I'm always driving in a Bentley, going to nice restaurants. That needs a very different retirement income to what I said earlier. And once you've identified what your magic number, what your ideal vision is, then it's working out how do you get to that. You get to that point. How do you need to invest to make sure that you can reach there? What tools and strategies are you going to use to achieve your goals? And then what would you like for other members of your family, such as your children, your spouse? So it's about you and your loved ones around you. So we call this living life by design, and this is achieved by tools of cash flow planning and strategizing. So the first thing, as we said, is knowing the magic number, which is about identifying how much income do you need to provide for the essential expenses, so your bills, your food, and then we talk about the luxuries, which really make life worth living, the hobbies, the travel, and buying a holiday home, things of that nature. We then need to establish if there's a gap. So you can be in one of three situations. Either you can have enough or more than enough, or you can have just about right, which is a good place to be, or you can be in a place where you don't have quite enough, but then you need to know what do you need to achieve to close the gap. Okay, and that gets you to the magic number. Once you know what it is, then it's about actionable consulting on three parameters. The first is maximizing the value of your practice. The second is making sure that you're saving tax in the journey to that point. And the third thing is making sure that you're investing wisely so that it generates growth, which gets you to that point. So now Max is going to talk about the practice valuation and maximizing side of things.
Which is where really the journey starts, as well as talking to you at early stage as a wealth planner. It's interesting, actually, you mentioned south of France as one of your potential targets. If you remember, we did a fantastic business trip last year.
We did.
South of France, which also involved a little bit of rugby. My very first match of rugby. There were so many interesting figures of dentistry there, so I love that. Anyway, going back to our webinar, everything really starts with a health check. You know, you need to understand the value of your business, and to be able to do so, one of the metric used is the EBITDA. Well, it's the main metrics, because all valuations are really EBITDA driven. So EBITDA meaning earning before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. In reality, what that is the true operating profit of your business. So you know that number is taken from your accounts, obviously, and then adjusted for non-cash items and non-recurring costs. So then you arrive to a F&B, firm attainable profit. You know, when I talk to potential clients or anyone involved in potentially at early stage selling their business or their practice, everybody is focused on the multiple. You know, they might heard of one of their friends, oh, I sold at 10 times, 8 times, 7 times multiple. To me, the most important aspect of the sale is not the multiple, because the multiple is generated is given by the market. Of course, we can and we will create a very healthy competitive tensions and environment, but the most important factor is the multiplier, because if you multiply 1 by 10 is one thing. If you multiply 2.5 by 8 is a different thing. So you achieve a more realistic multiple, but with a more accurate multiplier, which is the EBITDA.
Absolutely. That links very well to the magic number I talked about. And that's
absolutely, yes. So that's what it is. EBITDA is an acronym, earning before interest, taxation, or tax, depreciation, and amortization. As I said, in reality, is the actual true operating cost of a practice or your business. And again, it's a financial metric. We do evaluations with them, benchmark against other practices. We compare performances and percentages, and then we see if there is something that can be done to then proceed to either sell or to do a business plan together. And one of the factors to increase the value of your practice is obviously increased revenue and decreasing costs. And we're going to be seeing in more details what that means and how we can achieve that. It seems easy on paper, but there is a lot of work involved in this.
It's always the formula that's easy, but the actual implementation is where the skill lies.
Absolutely. So as I said earlier, everything starts with a health check, which is evaluation. So let's get to know your business. It's amazing that not many business owners that know how much their business is worth. They think they got an idea. They think that they still buyers, they use a a percentage of gross, or their idea and perception of EBITDA might not be the true reflection of the market and the reality of the EBITDA. And so everything starts, the preparation for sales starts with the valuation, really. Even if you're thinking of selling in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, I think it's very healthy to know what your business is worth today. Because then if you think and we know that the practice can achieve the number that is your magic number and what you want to achieve, and what we think is already maximized and cost efficient, then we can go to market. If there is something that can be done, then we proceed to a business plan, which is what we're going to be showing later. But if you are then ready to sell, we proceed with the marketing approach. So we prepare pack, sales material, introduce to buyers, which are all qualified buyers ready to go, introduce the business and the opportunity to buyers, where we continue to the negotiations. I think we got a few other points on this slide, because then the negotiation is only halfway through the journey. Once the value is agreed, that's where the fun begins, really, for the sellers, where there is the financial and legal due diligence, which usually take 2 or 3 intense months, and which is why we're starting to prepare all documents in advance and giving as much support as possible, as we've done it this many times. So we know what's coming next. So we like to be a step or two ahead, and always preparing the clients of what's coming next and tell them in advance, rather than taking them by surprise. We then arrive to the great time of completing the sale, and at that point we start with the transition planning. So you could exit the business depending on what deal was agreed, or you might stay in practice for a period of time to work over a period to an earn-out, or the third time. And at this point then is where conversation comes back to you on tax implications for the sale.
Lovely.
In summary, preparation is the key. Planning in advance is the key. We take together, we gather all the information together with our clients and their accountants, so then they can make an informed decision on the value that we can, with the market conditions, can achieve. And the deal really, it always happens when the two parties are feeling that they're winning. There has to be maximum value, maximizing value for the sellers, but equally it's about minimizing the risk from the investors and the buyers' perspective. Because if it's not done that way, at some point during the process there's going to be some resentment. If it's undervalued, the seller will realize actually it's not the value that we wanted to achieve. Equally, one of the biggest mistakes is to over negotiate in negotiation, because at some point, I must say, buyers are not naive. And especially in the current market conditions, right? Investors, buyers of all types, from corporates to first-time buyers, now more than ever are becoming really meticulous in analyzing goodwill value, understanding that the actual value is in line with the reality of the market, especially compared to the increased cost of borrowing that we are currently experiencing. So buyers are more scrupulous when it comes to analyzing goodwill. So hence, presentation of the business is now more than ever has to be 100% accurate.
Spot on. Right. So let's now bring it all to life through a case study. So we are talking about a private dental practice based up in Leeds. The client was a principal dentist at the time. He was 54 years old, 5 surgeries, and hoped to retire by the age of 55. So we had about a year to work out a plan. So he approached Pluto Partners in 2022, and their professional valuation showed that the practice at that point was worth about £860,000. And then he was referred to me for the Finsbridge cash flow master plan. So preparing a blueprint of what his ideal life looked like. And that reality check was basically to determine how far this amount, combined with the other investments, would go to meet his goals. And we took a lifespan of 100 for stress testing, the longevity. Our calculations revealed that if he had £50,000 per annum of income before tax, then he could live the kind of lifestyle he wanted without any issues. So we then decided to crunch the numbers. So we found out that he had about 120,000 in his stocks and shares ISA portfolio. He had 123,000 in a SIP, or a self-invested personal pension. But if you boil it down to the crux, he really was reliant on the value of his practice to attain financial freedom. Really, that's where most dentists are, because they've put their sweat, blood, and tears into building the enterprise value of their practice, and that's what is their route to financial freedom. So when we put these numbers into our sophisticated cash flow system, this was the picture. So what this tells us is if they spent £50,000 a year and they retired in 2024, age at 55, then this would take them to age 87. And then the sea of red you see means basically they're left with nothing. So not a sight they liked when they saw it, but at least they knew what the reality was. And they also understood, crucially, what the gap was.
So you want to see little red as little as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely spot on. And to eliminate that red, we'll find out what needed to be done. Okay. And this just shows that obviously if they didn't have enough for themselves, then there was no question of leaving a legacy to their children. Okay. So what this cash flow told us was the client would run out of money at age 87, and there would be no legacy left for his children. We made some assumptions, of course, conservative growth rate of 6% on investments and inflation being 2.5%, which seems very low at the present time, but that's a long-term expectation of inflation. Okay. Then what happened? The client engaged with Max to solve the problem. How do we close the gap? How do we get to the magic number? And he went on a 12-month journey to transform his practice structure, optimize his costs, and maximize his practice value. So let's find out how that happened.
Yes, actually the practice completed last month. So it's a very recent deal, August 23. And we embark into 12 months journey, but the actual conversation I had with the client, it was over the course of over 2 years. So the first valuations was done after year end March 22. And it's also when you receive an offer, a direct offer from an interested buyer, a local multiple site operator, not far from him. So the practice at the time generated a total revenue fully private of approximately £850,000, 5 surgeries on a 65% surgery utilization. Rental rate 32k, which is in line with the cost for the area, and 6k for the rates. Material and lab costs percentage-wise were again benchmarking against other practices. The percentage and the cost didn't show any alarm bells on this. So as we said earlier, valuation being EBITDA driven, the health check showed an EBITDA, a reconstituted EBITDA. So taking into consideration the cost also related to the principal to deliver this clinical revenue costed for, EBITDA showed 114,000 approximately, and also showing a percentage of revenue of just in excess of 101%. So at the time we applied a multiple of 7.5, between 7.4 and 7.5. So this would show the value of the business of 860, which wasn't really enough for our clients, but also we knew there was something that could be done in terms of maximizing value and improving and maximizing on efficiency. So after 12 months working with us, and in the following slides, we will be seeing in details what that means. We achieved a total revenue of 935, improving surgery occupancy increased 20%, so 85%, still on the 5 surgeries, same surgeries without building additional surgeries. the EBITDA improved to 165 as well as the revenue, which is not always the case, by the way. If it's not done properly, you can improve revenue, but then maximizing on costs, and then the EBITDA doesn't improve, actually can decrease. So it has to be done very diligently. So the multiple then applied this year is slightly less because market conditions are recalibrating, slightly different from the 2 years before now. So we suggested the value, approaching the market with the value of 1.22 million. So if we then analyze in more details some of the key lines and the key features, comparing after 12 months working with us to the previous 12 months, as I said, the private revenue increased from 850 to 935. The fees, which is the cost of all clinicians and associates to deliver the clinical revenue, being 38.9, just under 39%, which then takes into consideration also the library charge, which is half of the 6.5%. So that total cost of to associate and principal would have been in the region of 42%, which again is in line with sort of expectations of where it should be. Materials and lab costs did not increase, but you can see as a marginal reductions on material costs, 7.4%, which is driven by the incremental revenue. The wages and salaries slightly reduced. It was 21.2% initially, and that is a fairly high figure. Again, benchmarking against other practices in the area of similar sort of caliber, you should be looking between 17 to 18% of costs. So then with some minor adjustments, we then achieve an 18.8%. Some of the overheads decreased by about £6,000, and this is why the EBITDA improved from 13.5% to 17.6%.
That's a significant.
And again,
yeah.
Sorry, Brent.
I just said it's significant. Small wins lead to a big result.
Absolutely, because in this case, every pound that you save or you improve on the EBITDA equates to £7.5. So £10,000 or £15,000 is going to be approximately £80,000 to £90,000 in the value.
Phenomenal. So where did we end up then?
So in summary, in 12 months, not only we increased the revenue from 850 or 6 to 935, but the actual revenue performed by the principal reduced. If I remember correctly, out of the 850, it was performing over 50% of that revenue. So then, of course, when we talked about the deal, there is one aspect of the deal is the value that you achieve. The second aspect is the risk attached to the deal. And if there is a principal performing 50-60% of the revenue, from a buyer's perspective, is considered a high risk. So what we did, we engaged with the principal in a way that it could reduce his commitment to the practice, become less indispensable, but with the practice to grow. And the practice grew with revenue from associate and clinician and hygienists, whilst reducing the commitment from the principal. I mentioned earlier about the support staff and the reduction. So what we did, we analyzed the full-time equivalent ratio, which is the support staff, receptionists, nurses, TCOs, practice manager. Consider all of the working hours, and then you give you a full-time equivalent to 40 hours, which should really be 1.8, 1.9 full-time equivalent support staff to every one full-time equivalent clinicians. So we did some work on that, and there's been some minor adjustments on this, some of reductions on essentially the practice was overstaffed, but we did some work on this to reduce and make the practice more efficient. There was also work on overheads, costs that were not really needed. The surgery occupancy improved. Not only that, Rohit, but we also improved in terms of extending opening hours. So on a Wednesday is is now open, and it was open 8 to 8, and that was actually a really busy and successful thing to do, and open every other Saturday, which it wasn't open earlier. So then, as well as maximizing the hours that they were working before, we were also able to increase. And another exercise that we carried out was to help on the improving our revenue. We did a price review. So we analyzed an incentive that principals are not really willing of doing, and they don't have the time or the resources to do it. We analyzed the costs and the prices for every private practice similar to his practice within a 5-mile radius. And then we found out that his practice was, some of the costs were about 8% below other practices. This also was due a price increase that didn't do for over 3 years. So all of these exercises that we carried out together by analyzing his business, comparing to other businesses. And again, the EBITDA improved to 17.6%, significant value improved by 360K in terms of value suggested. The actual value achieved, again, recent completion, is in excess of £400,000 of the initial offer and the value that was given last year. So
fantastic.
Very happy. And as I said, client was able to sell. So we suggested a price of 1.22 million, and the actual completion price 1.25 million. And not only this, but also the initial offer of 2022 was based on a 60-40 type of deals, with a 60% paid on completion and 40% paid over 3 or 4 years time. So we significantly reduced this. So not only improve on the value, but we're able to do an 85-15 over 2 years, which is great.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you, Max, for that overview. For me, the biggest takeaway was the fact that within a period of 12 months, by carefully, incisively analyzing specific bits, the costs were reduced, changes were made to increase the profitability, the revenue coming from the clinicians, reducing the costs of support staff. All that incremental, what would seem to be small steps, led to such a dramatic improvement in the value of the practice. And that had some life-changing outcomes for our dentist. So you remember the figure of 860,000? Well, now the practice was sold for 1.25 million. So we then went back to the cash flow after all that work was carried out, and look at the outcome. Starkly different. This sea of blue, the red gone, and our stress test showed that he could actually spend more than he set out to achieve. Compare that to where he was before, where he was running out of money at 86 or 87 years of age. And now he is not going to run out of money even to 100. Okay. In just 12 months, through the strategic insights and wealth advice working together, the client has achieved a much, much enhanced outcome. He can now actually spend more than he set out to achieve, which, Max, is a fantastic outcome, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So that could mean one extra holiday around the world, right? Or it could mean a new car every 4 years, right? So it can really make a huge difference for the next 30, 40 years of that life, that 1 year spent in properly maximizing the value of the practice. But let's say our dentist here says, I'm only going to spend 50,000. I'm quite happy with that. He will actually now leave a legacy of 1.4 million pounds for his children. And that's the power of compounding. Okay. So here it just shows that the legacy for Happy, which we're calling his child, is 1.4 million, right? And that's huge. He's able to spend more or leave more for the children, which is a nice choice to have. So we now talk about the key elements involved in bringing together lifetime financial planning and the consultation around optimizing your practice value. The first step is see the financial planner, understand how much is enough. What is your magic number? Then speak to the experts who will help you determine what's the current value, what journey do you need to go on to maximize it, like happened in this example. And that would enable you to live life by design, achieving your dream of financial independence. It's really as simple as that, Max, isn't it? When you look at it at a high level.
Absolutely. And not many people think about getting a conversation early stage, but also getting a business health check, at least to get an idea of what your business is worth. And if
Absolutely.
there are any changes that can be made to improve it, because at some point, sooner or later, we all exit our businesses. So having a conversation now, it doesn't mean that you're selling tomorrow.
Totally. And I love the phrase living life by design, because there are so many people that just sleepwalk into living life by chance. But this is about, designing, planning, and then you improve your outcomes. It's just a no-brainer.
Thank you, Rick. I really enjoyed our conversation. It's been a pleasure. And most of all, it's been a pleasure helping our clients and leads and to show what was possible to achieve by working together with our combined expertise and advice. This really shows it's never too early to start a conversation, really, to start planning. So you can see our details here, contact telephone numbers and email address. Get in touch with me for a health check, understanding the value of your business. Rohit, with
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you very much, Max. I really enjoyed talking to you. And it's really about living life by design. Have a chat, prepare that blueprint, and control your outcomes. We are always happy to have a chat. Until next time, see you.